Okay, class, today we're going to be doing graphing ellipses. So make sure you're on the right page of your packet, because I noticed the packets were stapled wrong. So if you're looking at the wrong side of the packet, make sure you turn it over. Make sure you're on page 1 of 4. So the working form equation for an ellipse is going to be x, let me change to a different color, x minus h squared divided by a squared plus y minus k squared divided by b squared, and that's going to equal 1. So that's what an ellipse is going to look like. Now, keeping in mind that the center is still going to be at, what do you think? H and K. Now, the horizontal distance from the center to the vertices is going to be your A, and the vertical distance from your center to your vertices is going to be your B. So I know from here to here is an A, from here to here is an A, and that this middle point is called my HK, and this distance from here to here is a B, and this distance from here to here is a B. So make sure you mark that on your graph as well so you have that. So based upon that, I'm going to now look at number 1. I know my center is at -1, 2. So my center is at 1 and at 2. So now I want to figure out what my A is. So I go over here and say, okay, it's from my center all the way over. So if I count over, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know that my A is going to be a 5. So I'll know that my B is when I count from top to bottom. So if I count there, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 units. So I know that my B is going to be a 3. So based on that information there, I can now write my equation. So I know that I'm going to have x minus my h, and in this case, what is my h? That's correct, it's a 5 squared over my a, and my a is 5, so 5 squared would be 25, plus y minus my k, and my k is a 2, squared over my b squared. My b is a 3. 3 squared is 9, and I'm always going to set that equal to 1. Okay, class, notice where I put the 5 right here. That was an error, so let me change that. I meant to put a 1 there, so I'm going to change that. And good job if you caught that before I told you. And I'm going to make sure I change that to an x minus a 1. So now I want you to take a minute and pause your video and go ahead and do number 2 and number 3. Okay, let's look at number 4. Remember, if you didn't get all that done, just go back and pause your video. So number 4, it wants me to graph the ellipse given the working equation, which is the one we just dealt with, knowing that my h and k is a 3 and a -2, and that my a is a 4 and my b is a 6. So I'm going to write this information down. So it says write down the center. I can look at that and say, okay, I know my center is my HK. So my center in this case would be a what? That'd be correct, a 3 and a -2. Now my A would be, because I know it's going to be this squared, or the square root of that, it's going to be a 4. Now it says plot 2 vertices by moving A units to the left and to the right. So if I move to the left and the right of that, so let me go ahead and plot my center, which was at 3, -2. And then I got 4 for my A. So how am I going to move there? So if I go over 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Where am I going to be at? That's correct. And if I go over 4 from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to put me right here. Now it says plot 2 vertices by moving A units to the left and to the right of the center. So I know that if I graph those points, I'm going to have what? I'm going to have a 7 and a -2 And I'm going to have a -1, -2. Now I'm going to do the same thing for my b's. I know the square root of 36 is 6, so I know that that's 6. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go up 6 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to go down 6 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so I would write down those coordinates, which is 3 and -8, and 3, 4. And then make sure you connect those. Now yours may not quite look like mine, but make sure you connect those dots circularly, so you should have something that resembles. This shape right here. Okay, now let's go to the next page. Okay, looking at the next page, it says for each ellipse in the picture, tell its center and radii and write the working form equation. So let's focus first on ellipse D. So I know if I want to know the center, that center is at 4, 5. So now the horizontal center to vertex distance, if I go over, I would go over 2. And I would go up 1 and down 1. So that gives me my A and my B. And then I would use those numbers to denote my equation. So based upon that, let's do E together. So for E, what would the center be? That would be -4 or 5. So I'm going to go ahead and write that my center for E is -4 and a 5. So my A is going to be my distance from side to side. So I know I would have to go over 3 units. So my A is going to be 3. And then my B, I would have to go down 2 units. So when I write my equation, I know I'm going to have X, because that's a -4, it's going to be +4. And that's going to be squared. And that's going to be over my A squared, which is 3 squared, so that'll give me a 9. Plus my Y minus my 5 squared over my B squared, which would give me 4. And that's going to be equal to 1. Okay, guys, that's really straightforward. So I want you to now turn to the last page, and we're going to go over a couple of things there. But I do want you to go ahead and finish these problems in between this. So let's go to the last page. Okay, class, I know this page looks really, really busy, but this is what I want you to pay attention to. I want you to pay attention to the terminology: length of the major axis, length of the minor axis, and then focal radii. So the major axis refers to the segments of greatest length across an ellipse, like its diameter. The major axis can be either horizontal or vertical. That's really important, so underline that. Coincidentally, the major axis has the same length as the string used to make the ellipse. And we're going to talk about that because we're going to actually do a string activity in class tomorrow. Now, each focus of an ellipse is the distance of C from the center along the major axis. And the focal length can be found using this formula. So what I really want you to be familiar with is the terminology. We're going to actually go over this page in depth tomorrow. So go ahead and make sure you work the problems previous to this, and we're going to start here tomorrow. Okay, have a good night.